Good morning everyone, welcome to my channel. Okay, today I'm doing some more work on my Stitchery journal, part of the Roxy Creations collaboration that we're all taking part in. I've filled up the first journal. I had plans for so much more in here, but my tabs restricted me so that I could only get the 2 signatures in. I thought I'd get 3 signatures in, but I can only get 2. So I had to pull it apart and have a think about what I was going to do for the last 2 prompts. One being the bird, and now we've got a heart. Plus I did some extra ones as well. So that means I need 2 journals. It'll probably end up being 3 or 4 journals the way I'm going, but let's just get number 2 sorted. I was planning on doing a different spine to the original one, but I'm going to do the same so that when they're all sitting on my bookcase, they all look similar. So where I'm at so far is I've completed the piece, the decorative piece that's going on the front with my little dragonfly. So I've got my 2 pieces of the cookbook are covered. So I've used some nice hemp to cover that. I'm yet to put something on the inside here. That'll probably be either a piece of fabric or some stitchery, not sure yet. So at the moment, I've just got the 2 front covers of my cookbook just covered. The spine's been removed. We don't need that because we're doing our own spine. So what the plan is to continue with the tab idea. So I've cut myself 3 tabs, well actually 6, because you use 2 pieces of fabric for each one. One of the pieces of fabric is glued to the undersides, like so, and the second piece of fabric is glued to the covers on the top side. And then the gap in the middle, you can do whatever you want with. You could do some needlework around it like I did. That's what Rachel did when she made one. She just did some running stitch and then some overcast stitch to make it, you know, a unified piece. So I am going to do something a little bit different. I've gone through my scraps and found 3 pieces of lace that usually appear through all of my panels. So I thought I would use those. So before I glue it to the cardboard covers, I'm going to just slow stitch these pieces of lace onto the tabs like so. So that's a little job I've got to do first before these are attached. So if you're wondering how to do, here comes Fudge. Hey Fudge, he's walking through. There's Fudge. Okay, pussycat. Okay, come on through. That's where you're going. Okay, nice pussy. Move on. This is not for you. Off he goes. Fudgy, sit. Oh, now he's got the paw up wanting to play. Back onto your chair. He's got a chair just off camera over here that he sits on and just observes. So he's back on his chair now. So where was I? The tabs, cut the pieces and attach them. But if you want to decorate them, you need to do that first. But then it's just a simple of a little bit of glue here to glue it down, and a little bit of glue there, and then the same on the other side. Now, because I haven't done the inside, you've got 2 choices. You could glue it and then the fabric goes over the top of it, or you leave it, do the fabric first and then attach your tab. So what did I do in this book? Okay, I did the fabric first. I fully completed the inside, then I put the tab over it. Okay, so that answers that question. I'll do the same this time. So that means I need to make a decision about all this before I get too far ahead of myself. So I'm going to do that off camera because that'll take a little bit of time. I'll do that while I watch a movie tonight. So I'll just put all those pieces together. So they need the lace attached, and then I can attach the first half of the tab. I hope that makes sense. The tab will be like that. So it's the top section is glued down. That one will come another day. Okay, so that's that. Now, the other thing I need to sort out is my needlework piece that's going to be on the cover. I've made it a little bit smaller than the cover itself. So that gives me the opportunity to add some more decorative lace around the piece, just to, you know, pad it out or add some more detail, and it takes the squareness away. You see how I've put this crocheted piece in here. So it sort of matches the piece, but it sort of makes it a little less rectangular, if that makes sense. So I've got some bits and pieces here that I want to use. So I have had a play prior, so please don't think I'm absolutely brilliant as I do this on camera. And I took a photo of it. So I'm just going to show you the process to reconstruct it. And I'll just get the photo up in front of me. I think I can remember anyway. I'll leave it sitting on the cover so that I know my boundaries. Now I'm going to use this piece of cotton lace with this little decorative edge on the bottom here, and I'm just sliding it onto the book itself. Here comes Fudge again, right on the bottom of the book. So the piece then will adjust to that piece of lace. So that way I know when the book's standing on the shelf, it is not going to be crushing any lace that's hanging past the book. So that piece is in. I then had this little corner off of a handkerchief. So I wanted to use that because it's just flying around in my scrap bucket. So I decided I'd place that on top of the piece there. Okay, so a little bit of jiggling. I've got a little bit of room there, I can bring it over, and it sort of frames this bottom corner nicely. So I'm actually going to put some pins in that now, because I will need to stitch all this on. It won't take too long. Stitch it on before I can add this panel to the front of the book. And of course the tabs will slide in under that panel too, so it's nice and neat. So I'll just pin this into position so that I can take it to the couch and stitch it down later. Okay, this is a really good way of getting rid of some leftover bits and pieces when you finish a project. You can, if you've made your piece a little bit smaller than the book, well then you've got an opportunity to add even more layers and texture. Now I just want to pin that piece underneath as well. I hope I'm on camera. Yep. So I'm back from my little holiday, so I'm back in my craft room, so I feel very much at home now because I've got all my bits and pieces at close hand. So when I have crazy ideas, I can literally go straight to my craft room and have a play and turn on the camera if I wish. So that's reassuring, isn't it? How silly is that? Lovely holiday, but I did pretty much take my craft room with me anyway, so I was not wanting for anything. Okay, the next is the side. So I'm going to move that right over because I've got quite a large piece of crocheted trim here that's come off of a doily. So I've cut out all the medallions. By now you'd know that that's a bit of a thing of me. I take all the medallions out, but then I keep all these decorative sides. So what my plan was is to tuck it under this corner so that it'll be similar to the other book, hanging out. And this little edge here, I'm actually going to have it come onto the cover a little, where the rest is under the cover. Does that make sense? That one there, I might go back under, I think, because it's going to cover up. It's going to cover up this lace here if that little piece come out. So it's technically under my piece, but this little bit is flipping to the front. So I'm just going to pin that down. Oh, that pussycat, he really wants my attention. they've really missed us while we've been away. So we had Bandit with us. If you've watched the sewing basket restoration, which happened on our holidays, we've had Bandit with us. And I've got a female Aussie Shepherd. She went to a friend's place and stayed there, and the pussycat stayed at home, Fudge and Casper, and a friend of ours, she house sat, so the boys were not wanting for company, so they actually got a lot of attention, because usually they've got to share it with 2 puppy dogs, especially a puppy. You can imagine he's getting a lot of attention. So I think Fudge and Casper now are like, what's going on? We were number 1, and now you're home, and those 2 mutts are here as well. I'd say that's what he's thinking. Okay, so that's secure now. The other thing I did have is, I'm just getting my picture back, my camera. No, Fudgy. My camera has shut down on my phone. I had another piece of lace. Oh yeah, this little piece was up the top here. It's a fine little one, but I just thought it breaks up the heavy crocheted edge. I think you're off camera, so I'm just going to pin this first, and then I'll just pull this down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. This little piece is going to slide in as well. It just adds a little extra detail. Can be tricky to stitch all this on, but if you put in lots of pins and just take your time and just keep readjust your lace as you go, you can add so much more interest to a panel with your border treatment. Okay, so I hope I've caught all that. You can always then, once it's stitched on, come back and just trim off any little edges. I'm going to leave that edge plain. I think that's really good. And now it sits, oops, that pin didn't even catch that lace, so I'm just going to pin that again. There we go. So everything should be attached, yep, and it fits really well to the cover now with some dangly bits hanging off. So when it comes to putting on the tabs, before I attached this down, I will, like I said, stitch those pieces of lace on so it all becomes one. And I might do some seed stitch and things like that. That will slide under there as well. So then the tabs are all ready and attached. I did have these 2 little pieces out as well. When I trimmed this, I had this little scrap bit left. So my plans were to actually pop that down the corner here. I'll just lift that up a little bit. Pop that down the corner here just as a little feature, but I'm not going to bother. I don't think I need it now that I've come back to it. And I've had that stamped. So I had thought of adding just that little detail there. For what reason? Whatever, who knows? Just because. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to pin. So the other thing I'll just mention is my owl from last month is ready to go, and I've cut my fabric that will be inside the book as well. So the other little job I've got to do is to stitch my owl onto that, so that when these signatures get put into my journal, all my stitcheries are sort of coming together as well. So those panels, if you haven't done this yet, they are just 2 pieces of muslin or calico I've just put together. So there'll be a stitchery here, the owl, then there'll be another one here one day, and then when that's folded in half, that creates the signature. And then when I open that up to the center, so that means the 2 pieces are still together, it hides all the stitching from that owl being attached. So there'd be all stitching here from this little guy being attached, and then this would sit over it to hide it, and there'd be another piece here and another piece here. So each signature holds 4 pieces of embroidery. So the next one would go there, there, and then that would flip over and there. And then the final sort of pieces on each page sort of joins those 2 pieces of calico together forever, so that your stitching is all hidden. And then once you've got that completed, it's ready to slide into your book. And then I've got another set ready to go. So each signature has 4, so my book will have 8 pieces of embroidery in it. Okay, not to mention if I decide to actually do something a bit decorative on the cover inside. But I didn't last time. I did a pocket, and the pocket sort of has come in handy because I think it's not there anymore. I had the transfers I used for the little bird. This here, I had that as like a piece of paper with it drawn on. So I had that sitting in the pocket, but they've since moved on somewhere else. But at least the pocket's there if there's something I did stitch at a later date. I could also just slide it in there if I made a smaller little stitchery. So something to think about if you're doing your inside cover. I did do a bit of stitching on that piece of fabric there, just a little bit. So it'll be a case of find something that I like from my stash, and that will be the fabric that will go on the inside of my book. I hope all that makes sense. So I'm going to stop the camera now because I just need to whip around this and secure it. Add that lace to those tabs. I will then attach those pieces in there with some PVA glue, and then my piece will go on the cover. So a little bit to do, but that'll give me something to work on this evening. So I will see you all shortly, and I'll join that to this video, and we'll go from there. Okay, see you soon. Okay, I'm back. I just wanted to touch base on the little tabs because I've started the process that I was talking about, and I sort of had to think about the procedure I took to make sure that it was nice and neat on the other side of the tab when you're looking on the inside of the book. So before I get into that, I've finished stitching all of the lacy bits around the edge of my panel. So that little task is completed. So it's ready just to attach to the book. So I've got the camera zoomed in here a little bit because I started stitching the lace on with both of the tabs on top of each other. Then I realized that on the underside you could see all of my little stitches. They were tiny up here, but then I'd jump across a little bit on the back so that it just looked messy. And I sort of finished, kept going, thinking, oh, it's all right, I'll see my tacking. And I decided, no, I don't want to see my tacking. So I unpicked it, and I've just worked on one of the pieces when it comes to attaching my decorative snippets of lace. So I've gone around and stitched it all down. That way I could jump and scoot wherever I wanted here. I then decided I had a leftover piece of the threads, this one here, from the pack of cottons I used on the actual panel. As you can see, there's all these panels here. And I had a little bit of this that I'd cut off to use, but I just didn't end up using it within the actual stitchery. So I've decided to get that little piece and weave it through here. So I've got it featured at the top of that lace. It was just the opportunity to go up and down through there. And then using my cotton, I just secured the 2 ends so that it doesn't slide out. So everything's stitched down now. What I'm going to do next is do some maybe seed stitch or some French knots and just some more decorative stitches, but I'll go off and do that. I'm just not sure yet until I do my other tabs to see what sort of embellished stitches I add. But the main reason I turned on the camera was I was leading you to believe that you would do them together. And I've changed my mind. Do it separately. Do all of your pretty embroidery. Then you don't have to worry about how messy the back is, because then what we're going to do is I'm going to put them together when I'm done. And I've marked, now my tabs are 11 centimeters by 7 centimeters. So what I'm doing now is using a water-soluble pen or a heat-soluble pen. I've found the middle, which is 5.5 centimetres, and I've just put a little dot. So that's the very centre of my tab. Then I've come out the width of the spine that I want, which I decided was going to be 6 centimetres. And I've just put a couple little marks. So let's assume that I've completely finished all the embroidery on this piece. Of course I haven't, because I want to do some seed stitch and maybe some little X's. Who knows? I want to take my time in decorating these tabs. So by marking where this edge is, and we'll do it at the top as well, that tells me that I cannot stitch past these lines. Is that straight? Let me just take a moment and think about what I'm doing and not talk. So it's a bit better. Okay, what am I trying to say? What I'm going to do is secure the center of this tab so it just doesn't come apart, which means I'm going to do a little overcast stitch across the top. I'm going to do an overcast stitch across the bottom, and then I'm going to do a running stitch straight up the side. So that center is completely secure. It's one, but that will leave these flapping so that the book can be slid in, the cover can be slid in. So, but before I get to that stage, like I said, I do have a little bit more decorative work I think I could do, some French knots, and who knows, I just don't want to rush these little ends because they're such pretty pieces of lace. And the more I look at them, the more I think I could do some, you know, some little trims into them to drag the duck egg blue colour through the spine of it. So, but I just wanted to stop and say separate the tabs. That way you can go your hardest and you're not going to see your stitching on the other side. But when you're done, it'll be using some thread and just some tiny little invisible stitches to secure the perimeter of the spine sizing. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I shall leave it at that and go away and enjoy the process of slow stitching these 3 tabs, and we'll see how we go. The cover's done and it's just finished this off, and then we're ready to attach them to the actual book. So it's coming together nicely. See you soon. Bye. Hello, I'm back. Okay, this is the 3rd time I've actually recorded this because my phone kept ringing. So I've dealt with all of those phone calls and I'm having another recording. So what I was showing you is these tabs have been completed. So they're all stitched down with the invisible stitch, plus my decorative work was done prior, so that's all done. Little seed stitches around this piece of lace. This one I popped a little button in, and this one I actually turned the lace upside down because it was really glossy and it just didn't look right. So I turned it over and I've got more of a muted tone there, and then I wove through some of the fibers that we used when I did the flower work on this particular piece. So really happy with the way they've come. Now, because I've recorded this once before, I was able to easily show you that these flaps are left open ready to take the book, like so. And these ones were, I turned it back on itself and then applied some PVA glue in here to secure them. And I just eyeballed the 2 at the top and bottom, those first, and then found the middle one there, and the little button one became the middle one. Okay, so I have sort of glued them. They're still drying, but what I want to do now is put the panel itself into position and glue that down. So I'm going to just jiggle it around until I'm happy. Now, I didn't want the lace to be touching the cupboard shelf if that book was standing, so I just have to make sure that that is probably my point of reference for starting. So just bear with me as I just make sure I get it exactly right. Okay, happy with that. Now it's just lifting up half of it. Well, this is how I do it. I lift up half and then I just start applying the PVA glue generously, but not too thick. You sort of want it to get tacky reasonably quickly and grab your fabrics. So I'm going to need a little bit more. And then when this is all glued down, I'm going to add a bit of weight to it, and I'll let it sit overnight so that it just is forever glued. It is the cover, so hands are going to be fiddling with this book, and you want it to be nice and secure, because the last thing you need is it falling to pieces as people thumb through your book and have a little look at all your beautiful work. So we need plenty of glue. Okay. And you can always lift corners and add a little more. If you feel like you haven't got enough, you can always sneak back in and apply a little bit more glue. But as long as the main section is nice and secure. Okay. Now, once again, lining up the bottom, because that's sort of the point of reference that we know has to not touch a bookshelf when sitting. I'm happy with that. Press it down. And have it grab. What I'll probably do is I won't fiddle too much with it at this stage. I'll just let it grab what it can. I'm just going to get a bit more glue out for myself. And then tomorrow, after it's dried overnight, just have a little play with it and see what could do with a little extra glue. I can feel straight away that this is not enough, so I am going to just tuck a little bit in there just to make sure that that grabs down. Okay, now I'm going to just spin this all around, so just bear with me and work the other side. You watch me get my sleeve in this glue. I do it when I'm cooking, so I'm going to be doing it when I'm gluing. I can just see it. I wear a lot of things that have big floppy sleeves, and my husband's forever going, your sleeve, as I drag it through the gravy. Hopeless. That's because I love fabric, so I tend to wear a lot of fabric, floppy fabric around, and I think that's why. Okay, I'm going to put some more glue directly onto the piece. Now, it's a bit of an overcast, cold day here in Brisbane, so this is going to take a bit to dry. Usually it's, you know, nice and sunny, so even overnight might not be enough time for this to actually grab properly. So it's just a case of have a little look in the morning, see how it's faring, add a little more glue if it's just not enough, but I think it will. And take your time, because, you know, this is a pretty important stage through the whole process, is making sure that our pieces are secure. Okay, happy with that for now, I think. It's a good layer of glue. I can feel that it's starting to get a little tacky, which is good. And down it goes. Okay, just want to lift that a little bit. That's better. Good thing about PVA, it's very forgiving. If that was art glitter glue, it would be down, secure, done, finished, and you just got nowhere to go. Art glitter glue is good, but that rapid set in it is just too good. Okay, happy with that. All right, I'm going to stop the video here, clean up my mess, find something heavy to sit on this. I may even just sit here a moment and just keep pressing down the fibres of the fabric so that it gets that glue into it. And my piece will hopefully dry nicely. It's looking good. And my little tabs are tucked in there, ready to attach to the underside. This, I'm not going to lift it. Yes, I will. I can't help myself. So that'll flip in under there and there'll be a pretty piece of fabric. So that'll be another video another day where I will work on the inside covers. So in the meantime, I can have a think about what fabric I want to use, and I'll flip it around. Then we can put a nice piece through here. They will be attached, and then of course the back cover can be completed as well. But at the moment, that is where we're at. My cover is completed on my Roxy Journal of Stitchery number 2. And I guess I've got to start thinking about the next prompt for June, hearts and dyed or painted fabrics. So that's a lot of fun. So I've got my book well and truly on the way, at least, so that my owl can find a home and I can start putting in my next piece that is the next prompt. So I'll say goodbye here, everyone. Thank you for joining me and watching my next journal come together. Thank you very much. See you all soon. Bye.